Welcome to People in Time from the Department of History at Lancaster University, where we introduce you to historical figures from our research and teaching that help us to see the other side of history. I'm Tim Hickman, a United States historian at Lancaster, and I'd like to introduce you to a photo of a young man who is in every way from the other side. Edwin Francis Jemison was not the president. He was not a politician, nor was he a general. He was not from a particularly elite family, and he was not likely to have been more than moderately articulate. He left very little behind him, just family memories and this photograph. In short, Edwin Francis Jemison was average. But among the things that an average young man did if, like Jemison, he lived in the state of Louisiana in 1861, was to enlist as a soldier to fight in what remains by far the greatest single source of American battlefield casualties. In fact, the U.S. Civil War, which was fought between 1861 and 1865, saw more fatalities than all U.S. wars combined until Vietnam finally tipped the scales in the early 1970s. Edwin Francis Jemison was among the first wave of enlistees in 1861. He was just 16 years old. Before his 18th birthday, however, he became a statistic, just one of 620,000 Civil War casualties. According to eyewitnesses, who may or may not be trustworthy, his head was blown off by a cannonball in the Battle of Malvern Hill, Virginia in May of 1862. What we do know with certainty is that his obituary appeared in the Milledgeville, Georgia Southern Reporter on Tuesday, the 6th of August, 1862. It explained that, bounding forward at the order of charge, Jemison was stricken down in the front rank and without a struggle yielded up his young life. And that's all. But if he's only one of so many Civil War casualties, how and why do we still know him? The answer is very simple. We know him because he had his photograph taken. The image you see is a carte de visite, and these were popular with rank-and-file Civil War soldiers of both the North and the South. Photographic studios often sprang up in the towns and cities near the battlefields where everyday people, and especially soldiers, could go and have their pictures taken. They sat in front of a camera with 4 lenses that produced a negative with 4 images. These could be printed on card and cut into 4 separate pieces. The studios often sold small and expensive frames that the photos could go in. This was a very high-tech experience for the soldiers, mostly because photography was a relatively new medium in 1861. The Crimean War, fought between 1853 and 1856, was the first to be photographed, but prolific and talented American photographers like Matthew Brady and Alexander Gardner ensured that images from the U.S. Civil War would come to define the emerging genre of war photography. Brady, Gardner, and others shot the aftermath of battles. Their combined output, particularly of the human carnage of war, remains among the strongest anti-war statements ever produced. But among the most popular uses of the new technology was simple portraiture, and this is where we find Edwin Francis Jemison, whose image serves historians all around the world as the face of the average Southern soldier. When we look at this image of a very young man, it's hard not to notice his age. It's equally difficult not to notice the look in his eye. Why did he have this photo taken? For whom was it a gift? Was it for his mother, who probably didn't have any other pictures of her boy? Was it for a sweetheart? Or maybe for one of his mates? Maybe he didn't have any friends to give it to, and it remained in his pocket. All that remains is the image and the statistic that it represents, 620,000 dead. And there's one other thing, the look in his eye. That's the look of a 16-year-old boy who's afraid, but is trying hard not to be. As it turned out, he was very much entitled to be afraid. But photos are seductive, and we need to be on our guard. When done well, and this one is done very well, they pull us in via the shared humanity we so clearly recognize in the photographic subject. But what else might we recognize in this image? I would be remiss not to point out that the cause for which Edwin Francis Jemison so enthusiastically laid down his life was the right of Southern states to determine their own laws. and the laws that they most cared about guaranteed the enslavement of 4 million African Americans. In this final sense, then, Edwin Francis Jemison was indeed from the other side. His image demands careful historical investigation. It begs questions about who fought and why. It reminds us that history was made from the bottom up, at least as much as it was from the top down. Still more so, it demands that we consider our own relationship to the past and those who lived it. Does Edwin Francis Jemison deserve our compassion? That's a difficult question. But there can be no doubt that this photograph forces us to confront the complexities of the past. It is silent, yet it cries out for words from us to explain it. Therein lies its incredible historical